Hello, everybody, and welcome to Connecting with Jennifer Filzen. Today, I have a very special guest, Tersh Blissett, whom I met in Orlando, Florida, at the Air Conditioning Contractors of America conference. Welcome, Tersh.
I am so excited to be with you today.
I know, right? Well, I'm really excited because you are a famous podcaster in the air conditioning realm. So please do us the favor of telling us who you are, where you're from, your business, your podcast. Like give us the overview of your awesomeness.
Okay, so as quickly as possible, I will tell you my brief background. I have a podcast, and I started in 2017, and I started because I was driving about 3 hours a day, and I had exhausted most of the books that I could find to listen to. So I started down the rabbit hole of podcasts because on one hand, I was tired of buying books because I was buying a book every 2 or 3 days. And then I wanted more information from the authors that I had grown to love listening to their books. And I figured out that some of these authors had podcasts too. So then I started, well, this is natural progression. I'm just going to start listening to podcasts. And then that kind of became I wonder if there's a podcast for HVAC specific world. And what I didn't find is the business side. What I did find, Brian Orr had a podcast on the technical side, teaching technicians how to do things. And so I got connected with Brian. I learned a lot from Brian, and he actually taught me how to start a podcast. I was on his show a couple of times. He taught me how to do a podcast, and it kind of snowballed from there. And that's how Service Business Mastery grew. And I had a lot of people asking questions because I had a service business that I started in 2014, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and we were growing between 90 and 120% every year. And so I had a lot of people asking questions on the podcast, how do I do this? So then I started another business, and that's where Service Emperor came about. And so I have Service Emperor and TriStar, and I also Service Emperor is 100% remote and about 95% paperless. And a lot of that business I wanted to automate, and I from day one I wanted to learn how to automate if I couldn't automate it, or if I didn't know how to automate it. And that is what led me to Process Pros, which is another business that Josh and I started, my co-host of the podcast, and where we build out automations or first we teach people how to build automations. And then if they want us to, then we will build the automations for them versus them having to do it.
Oh my gosh, you are such an entrepreneur. Okay, okay. So we've listed four businesses. All right. You've
Mhm.
got to tell us how to find it and spell it because that's a lot. Okay, so Service Business Mastery is the
Mhm.
podcast.
Yep.
I think people know how to spell Service Business Mastery.
Yes.
Are you on? You have your own website, yes?
Yes.
But then also
Service.
too, are you on Spotify and Apple and all that?
Yep. Everywhere there's a podcast, we get about 160,000 downloads a month on the podcast. And so it's Skilled Trade Syndicate is the parent company of the podcast and anything multimedia related. So like
Very cool.
any of our videos and stuff like that we do, they're all under Skilled Trade Syndicate. And so then Process Pros is still a new company and really under the umbrella of Skilled Trade Syndicate.
Okay.
So there's not a lot out there just yet. But I mean, we're doing a lot of work, but we haven't had time to stop and actually build the website
Isn't
because we've
that
been so
funny?
busy doing the
And
work.
and remind me, Process Pros is the business that does the automations?
Yes, that's correct.
And that
Uh,
is, and tell us more about that. So like that is that like automations of like when you're setting up appointments with clients or the actual service visit? What is being
sure.
automated?
Anything you could think of, honestly. If there's a task that you do more than once a day, we want to automate it. So the first thing that we want to do is optimize it. So optimize the process. Then we want to automate it. And if we can't automate it, we want to delegate it to someone else. So as a business owner, we shouldn't be doing multiple tasks, the repetitive task every day. So that's our whole thought process behind that. We built some courses out. We built a community that's this automation foundations is the basic level where we teach people how to do the automations if they want to.
Wow. And where do
Um,
you find that?
on our website, Service Business Mastery, or I can just give you a link to it.
Amazing.
And yeah, so that's what I mean, we just basically teach people how to automate their business really, because
Amazing.
we do about I want to say we're up to probably 16,000 zaps a month. So
Bravo.
that's 16,000 tasks that we don't have to do repetitively. So
Bravo. Oh my God, that is so, so cool. Yeah,
yeah.
Zapier is pretty cool. Okay, and then business number three is the actual HVAC business. Did
Yeah,
you
Service
say that
Center.
you started that when you were 14 years old? Did I hear that right?
No, 2014.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, dang, man.
No,
Okay, 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 okay. 2014. Okay, okay. Because I was like,
yeah.
did he just say he was 14 years old? Okay, never mind. All right.
Uh,
And what's the name of that business?
so the one that we started in 2014 is called TriStar.
TriStar
And yep, and that is and so TriStar and Service Emperor are in the same market,
Service
but they're
Emperor.
not technically competitors because TriStar is the target audience for TriStar is going to be your multifamily housing, property management type things. So high
Got
volume, low margin type things.
it.
And then Service Emperor is the exact opposite. So it's going to be a lower volume, higher margin clientele.
Okay, Service Emperor.
Hmm.
Emperor, like as in the emperor has no clothes, but clearly,
Yes.
yeah. Dang. Okay. And then you're in Tennessee, right?
Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, sorry, Savannah, Georgia. Thank you for correcting me. That's right.
No,
Savannah
you're
is
good.
beautiful. Because I remembered your wife Julie talking about how you guys have a beautiful place out in the country, and she's all
Yeah.
happy when she gets to walk
We,
down her drive.
oh, sure. Yeah. And like today has been a great day. We live on 250 acres right outside of town. So, yeah, anytime that we have any kind of like, we work in the same office. And we can sometimes we're just like, hey, it's time for a walk. And so we
Yeah,
just go out for a walk and walk through the paths and
love
then
that.
come back and have like a little reset.
That is so cool. But also too, like I'm just so curious. When you have 250 acres, that's a lot to maintain. What are
Mm.
you doing? You have a ranch? What are you growing things? Are you just it's just nice woods? What's happening with
Yeah,
250
pretty
acres?
much. It's a tree farm. So pine trees
Nice.
are we grow pine trees and harvest them every
Nice.
15 years or so.
Very, very cool. Actually, back when I was a kid, I had some land in Florida, and yep, that's how we paid our taxes, harvesting the pine
Yeah.
trees. Yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because they grow like weeds.
They do. They grow
They really
fast.
do.
Hmm.
You don't have to work hard for a pine tree farm. You
Nope.
really don't.
Other than when storms come through and you got to clean up whenever
True.
limbs fall down, but for the most part, yeah, it's pretty self-sufficient. Clean, have a big tractor for cutting the grass, and that's, about it for pathways.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, my first question is always what makes you special and unique? Just the fact that you have four businesses, you're young, you're such an entrepreneur, and of course, you've got this awesome family property. I mean, good for you. Good for you. I'm so proud of you. Tell us what makes you special and unique. And more importantly, I mean, let's face it, when we're on these podcasts, right? People are telling about how they got there or how
Sure,
they have
sure.
succeeded, but we want to hear the journey of how you got there too. I'm sure it wasn't just here you go, honey.
Oh
Here it
yeah.
is. I mean, you had to work for it, right?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the reasons I wanted to automate was because I wanted to reduce overhead expenses because I just I hear struggles all the time of entrepreneurs and starting out businesses. And I was like, hey, let's just try and do something different. I have a friend of mine, his name's Jesse Cole. He's the president and the owner, or he's not the president, he's the owner and founder of the Savannah Bananas baseball team.
Oh,
And
fabulous.
yes, and one of the things that he's taught me as a mentor is, if it's normal, do the exact opposite. So that's the reason why I'm normally in a three-piece suit. Like, I do air conditioning, but I wear a suit every day because it's not normal. That's hasn't always been the easiest thing to do things opposite of the normal traditional because like we haven't had warehouses and things like that. I've had to figure out ways to make that work. But from knowing that from the get-go, I've been very intentional of, I needed software that was in the cloud based, and I've known that from day one. And so it wasn't like we started off in something that needed a server, and so we needed a centralized place for everybody to come to. When we hire people, like everybody knows that we're going to be remote, and so like it's a different personality of type person that doesn't have to come to the office every single day. So just knowing those things up front has been helpful. But now these things aren't. The stuff isn't what I didn't know it all along. Like it was, there was trial and errors. Like I
Oh,
hired people
always.
that were very used to coming to one centralized location and hanging out and meeting every single morning. And they were like, this won't work for me. And I need to have that camaraderie of like, I need to talk to people and meet people and, like touch and stuff like that every single day versus only seeing each other like once or twice a week, maybe. And so there's things that I learned through those experiences, even having to implement certain check-ins throughout the day with our business because we don't hear and see each other physically in person. So like we have a Zoom that runs all the time. If anybody needs to hop into the Zoom room, it's there, and we're there, and so they can, if they want to see interact really closely with us, then they have the opportunity to do that.
No, I think that's great. You're right. In our marketing agency, we work remotely. We have people throughout California, Missouri,
Hmm.
even a wonderful employee in Nigeria, and we all make it work. And it's really
Yeah.
cool because we're through Slack, through
Hmm.
all the different channels. We can definitely get in touch with each other, and it's quickly that we can reach each other and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Obviously, if somebody's in a totally different time zone and they're asleep, we're not going to bother them, but we can leave
Sure,
a
sure.
message.
Yeah, we have a couple of office team members who are in the Philippines, and they work during the evening times. Their evening time is our daytime,
Mhm.
and there are a couple different shifts. So one of them works later in their day, and one works earlier in the morning. But yeah, it's through Slack, I've built several automations that are random times during the day where I ask for people to check in and just with an emoji, like a green, yellow, or red. And so if it's a green, I don't respond. If it's a yellow, I'll shoot them a text message and say, hey, what's going on? And if it's a red, I stop whatever I'm doing and I will call them and check on them. So that way there's not like, I'm not interfering with your day. But if you're just at a point to where like, hey, I'm just done, you just pop a red dot in there, and then all of a sudden, like that's I'm going to reach out to you. Tony's going to reach out to you. Office team member is going to reach out to you. So um, that way, everybody knows that they're not by themselves, even though we are remote from each other.
Yeah, yeah, and that is so important to company culture, isn't it? Right.
Right.
So now that particular is that happening with all of your businesses where you have the people who are remote, or what about the
Mhm.
service emperor? You need to have people that are going out to your Savannah clients, yes?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And that's Service Emperor is our biggest remote company. Well, I say that because um the podcast is worldwide too. The podcast is less of a demand type thing. What we use Slack with all of the businesses, but the podcast and Process Pros, those are more of like, hey, I'm going to message you and get back to me when you get back to me. Is not anything. Typically, isn't pressing unless a website goes down or something like that.
Got it.
But if that's not the case, then it's not super high demand. Whereas inside of Service Emperor or TriStar, uh, we still use Slack. TriStar does have a brick and mortar that is a location. While I have not actually stepped foot in that building since 2019,
Wow.
there is a building there, and the guys, there are team members that go there every day.
Nice.
Um, but Service Emperor, we don't have a brick and mortar per se, and we use
Amazing.
Slack to communicate
Oh,
throughout the
I
day.
love it. I love it. So, okay, and now I'm so fascinated. All right, so um my dad and mom owned a outlet. electrical contracting business. And
Yeah, I
so
remember you
what's
saying
kind
that.
of cool is we operated out of our home.
Hmm.
So it was the home, and it was funny because the zoning for residential and commercial went through our garage.
Oh
So
wow.
it was
Yes.
like literally like one half of the garage, and then the actual building is like the
Hmm.
business zone. Kind of fun. And as a kid, my parents were always at home, so I didn't have to worry about, them coming
Yep.
up, picking me up from work or from
Hmm.
school. They were there. But tell me how this works with, you've got people, but they're remote, but then they're still serving locally.
Hmm.
Tell me how you do that, because that's fascinating.
So it's funny you ask because it's just so normal for me now. We
I love it.
started in like was it 2019, 2018 is when we kind of, well, 2019 is really when we pulled the trigger on Service Emperor. Um they it, just like any other company, we dispatch from home technicians. So like as a technician, we hire a technician in a new city or area. We almost morph our service area around them as well. We don't put too many eggs in the basket though, because if that technician is the only technician in an outlying area and we market there and then we release them to new opportunities,
Mm.
then we're marketing to an area that we don't have a technician living in. So we take that into consideration, but we will morph a little bit around where the technician lives, and we have suppliers who will, so we can go to mini storage units, and that's considered our warehouses,
Nice.
and our vendors, for the most part, will restock those mini storage units depending on like how much we're using each one of them. So um, that's kind of how we've gotten away from gotten around not having a warehouse. So it's
Bravo. I'm setting off all the fireworks because I'm just cheering you on, man. Because you're right. Like renting a miniature storage unit is so much more affordable than
sure.
the rent on a giant warehouse.
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
when you do have something like a large warehouse, you do feel obligated, don't you, to have it staffed?
Yep.
Because if you're going to justify that kind of cost, you better have people there and company trucks and the
Hmm.
whole deal. But really, you've got a great operation. So you're in more than Savannah then. Yeah, you're in all kinds of cities, right? Where are you
Sure. Uh,
servicing?
Pretty much surrounding 60 square miles from Savannah. Now we try our best not to go into South Carolina, even though I carry a license there. It's just not. It's a challenge to cross the river logistically. Unless I hired 3 or 4 people in South Carolina, it doesn't seem like a long travel on the map. But when you actually try and schedule calls on Hilton Head Island or somewhere across the river, it becomes a logistical nightmare. And it becomes like one call that's 45 minutes drive. It's only 10 miles, but it's like a 45-minute drive.
Traffic.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's terrible.
because of all the tourists. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm
Hmm.
in Monterey, California. We get a lot of tourists, and certain times a day,
Yeah.
traffic
Hmm.
is horrible because everyone wants to come into town.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
So
can imagine
it's
how.
hard to say no, especially in those areas. They're typically very affluent neighborhoods.
Uh-huh.
And to say no to those individuals is kind of like, oof, hate to do that. But every time I ever say yes, it ends up getting us. We get bit.
Isn't that ironic? Well,
Hmm.
I'm so proud of you though. And so if you look at how it kind of works out as far as residential versus multifamily properties, is it like a 50-50 split, or is it 60-40?
As far as,
um uh like you have these two businesses serving, so like which one is the bigger one, or are they equally big because you're just penetrating those markets so well?
sure. So TriStar is what, 4 years older than Service Emperor, 4 to 5 years older than Service Emperor. It is larger than Service Emperor, um, volume wise,
Mm.
but let me think, net profit wise, uh, they're close to the same on the net profit side. Now, the margins are a lot tighter with TriStar than they are with
I
Service
would
Emperor
imagine, yeah, with
because of
multifamily properties, they're gonna work a deal, and volume,
mhm.
obviously. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But the top line number is a good bit higher than it is with TriStars. I mean, with Service Emperors, but they're pretty close to the same, which it begs to question, like, is it worth the extra work to do a lot more volume at a lower net profit
Mhm.
versus like this other company that does a lot less, uh, top line number, but has the same net profit or a similar net profit. Um, they're just different.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I can't say one's better than the other
No,
because
they're
at
just
one
different
point in
animals.
time, yeah, at one point in time, I thought, yes, Service Emperor's philosophy is way better than TriStar's. And that was prior to starting Service Emperor. I thought, well, this is going to be even better to do it this way because, like, I've nailed it doing it this way. So I know I can do it that way. So I'm going to do it this way over here and try it out because I think that way's better. It's just different. It's not better. It's just a different way of doing it.
Well, also too, I mean, what's really kind of cool is that it's almost like you have two horses pulling the cart, right? And they're working in tandem
Hmm.
as a team. And I'm sure when the economy is doing its thing, there are going to be times
Oh,
when
yeah.
the multifamily properties are going to be performing better than
Hmm.
the single family homes, and then vice versa, right? And
Oh,
and
sure.
also too, within the multifamily, you're also doing more commercial, yes?
Um,
Or are you
no,
strictly sticking with residential?
it's pretty much predominantly residential, and it's weird because actually Service Emperor we do a lot of commercial as well.
Oh yeah.
But we're very picky about the commercial clients that we do work for. There, and I will say you're right about the time of year type thing because TriStar stays busy year round because tenants, they don't care what time of year it is. They
Right.
pay their rent. They want their air conditioning working. They want their heater working, even if it's whatever temperature outside. They're not opening the window. They want the air conditioning to work, which is good for us because if it's broke, then we're going to come fix it during the fall or during the spring. Whereas owner occupied properties, they're more likely just to kind of deal with it for a week or two or whatever, especially if it's 70 degrees during the day.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. They're probably
Yeah.
not running any heating or air at that time. They're just like,
Oh, sure.
woohoo, open up a window. Yeah. Put
Hmm.
on a jacket.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Clearly, you have had people that have mentored you through the years.
Mm,
Um, who are these wonderful people, and how are you fortunate enough to get their wonderful input? Because we all surround ourselves with special people. I'm
sure.
just curious, did it start with your family? Did you get into coaching programs? Like, how did you attract these amazing people leading you down this path of success?
Well, I will say that podcasting is what started it off for me. Listening to people and having them as a mentor from afar type thing, type situation. And I got to where I was able to start interviewing people, and after interviewing them, developed a relationship with them. Mike McAllowitz is one of my
Love
biggest
him.
mentors.
Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
have so many of his books. I love that guy.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
a great fella. So Fix This Next, the book Fix This Next, which you can might be able to see it right there behind me, but
Yep,
that
yep,
book
I see it.
was it was written about Julie and I and two
No
other
way. You were
couples.
featured in there.
Yeah.
Well,
And
hot
so
damn, that's cool.
well, yeah, absolutely. And so Mike actually became a mentor of mine many years ago now, and I had him on the podcast talking about um, what was he talking about first? I don't think it was toilet paper entrepreneur, but I think it
I
was
love Pumpkin Plan.
profit first was probably what he was talking about. And
Yeah.
if you've ever listened to the audio version of Profit First, he talks about I mean he talks about it even in the regular book, but in the audio book it's really he talks about Jesse Cole a lot, which is another mentor of mine with the bananas. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh
Uh,
so those two guys have been a major they are probably my one of my longest term mentors. And then Tim, which is my business partner with TriStar, he was a mentor of mine. Like whenever I first started TriStar, I was in my 20s and he was in his 50s at that time. So he had experienced things and he had experienced apartment complexes because that's what the world he came from was doing turns and carpets
Nice.
and paint in apartment complexes. So he knew the world. And so he really, although I didn't like hearing him say no, sometimes it was for the best whenever he did. And he could explain it to me. And that was very helpful throughout that relationship.
That wisdom definitely
Mhm.
comes in handy. He's like, this isn't as good as you think it's going to be. Trust me,
Right.
I've got the
Yeah.
experience.
Hmm.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. That is amazing. Now, has your family also been involved in HVAC, or was that a
Nope.
completely separate industry that your family was in?
No, I actually, in high school, I went to college. I was able to do a dual enrollment program through GTREP, Georgia Tech program. And after getting out of high school, I kind of, well, I went straight into the Air Force as well. And then I came back and did college. And I didn't like it at all. Like the career path that I was taking, I didn't like it. And my dad was a welder or boilermaker by trade. And he was like, "You need to become an electrician." And I was like, "I don't want to be an electrician. I don't want to be a plumber." He's like, "You need to get into the trades." And after about a year of me telling him no, I didn't want to do that. I had a friend of mine who is funny. I mean, he dropped out of high school, and here I am with a college degree, and went to the Air Force, and I'm struggling. I'm not struggling, but I'm not like making bank or anything like that. And he's coming home with checks bigger than mine, and he's an HVAC technician. And so I was like, bro, you got to give me a job doing what you're doing. And
Right.
he did, and that was on Cinco de Mayo of 2005. And
Whoa.
so
Coming up on an
that
anniversary. Happy anniversary.
yeah. And so it was really cool. I transitioned over into the HVAC world and really never looked back. I owned a couple other unrelated businesses while in the industry, but yeah, I don't think I could ever actually fully leave the industry.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but HVAC kind of also encompasses the electrical, the
Oh,
plumbing.
sure. Oh,
It's
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
funny. It's like your
Yeah.
dad made this wish and you're like,
Hmm.
no, 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 no. But now you're doing all of it. Are you also doing some of the welding? Because I have seen some welding in
Yeah,
that
I do.
group. That's funny.
I do weld. Just as a hobby, not career wise. I mean, I am really big into cars and automotive, and so me and my boys we do a lot of welding. Not career stuff, not stuff that you could sell, but enough to tinker around and play with.
Oh, always fun.
Yeah.
Always fun. And welders are worth their weight in gold, aren't they? Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
sure. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. There's so many things that we haven't had to send off to a shop because we could just weld it up and take care of it.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Because yeah, I come from the auto repair world as well. And
Oh, yeah.
so much fun. In fact, one of my favorite stories, I don't know if you would know Bogie Latiner. She was a YouTube fan for quite a while. She had an all girls garage
Okay.
and they converted a vintage Ford truck into a really kick-ass little thing with a BMW engine inside of it. And it was strictly females that got to work on that vehicle. And they took it to the SEMA show in Las
Oh,
Vegas,
yeah.
showed it off, and everything that they did had some meaning to it. The paint was called Tenacious Teal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
33% of the girls working on that build were brand new. They had never picked up a wrench before.
Oh, that's cool.
The gal that became like the best welder, I remember they gave her a gift of where her welding mast had the Wonder Woman symbols on it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really cool. And she's since made a career, as I recall, since made a career out of being a welder and
What's
crafting.
what's their name?
Ah, all girls garage.
All Girls
I'll
Garage.
have to
I'll have
share
to
that
look
with
that
you.
up. Yeah.
It's really cool. I think they did that. Let's see, when did they do that? I was there at that show. Gosh, I want to say it was somewhere around 2017, 2018-ish.
Okay.
That happened. So Bogey,
That's really cool.
Bogi, Bogey Latiner. You look up Bogey, all girls garage, Ford truck. I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah.
So proud of those girls. But yeah, welding is cool. And I just think it's so cute that your dad was like trying to protect you, trying to be like, okay, son,
Oh yeah.
let me sit you down and tell you the ways. You're like, no, dad, I got this. And then
I
you're
know
like, yes.
everything.
Well, then of course, when you started getting into it, what was that conversation like when you're talking to dad?
You know, he never said I told you so. He's never been one of those people. But he- he's made it known that you know, he's proud of the path that I've taken. So it's been cool. He's very supportive of me. I have four sisters and a brother. But he's very much, if they've ever said anything to him, he's always, you know, immediately come to my defense because he's like, you don't see the hours he puts in and everything, you know, you get a phone call at, you know, midnight and he's gone until 4 a.m. Like y'all don't see that, but I know it because he's familiar with the similar, you know, experiences. So
Oh, yeah.
it's definitely it's a different lifestyle.
It is kind of putting on your superhero cape when you're doing
Sure.
that kind of business and you are making those kind of calls. Of course, you're charging for it,
Oh, absolutely.
but you know, when people need to have that service done, yeah, you're there. That's amazing. Okay, so I want to shift to what is your why? You know, we all have our thing that gets us out of bed every day. And gosh, what you're doing is just so exciting. But what is your why? What is getting you out of bed and what motivates you to just keep doing all these amazing things? I mean, running four businesses is not a joke. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of
Well,
stress.
it is, but and also I want to emphasize the fact that I don't run all four businesses. They are run by people who are better than I am
There you
at
go.
this point. So if I had to, my hand be held, you know, like if I had to hold everyone's hand and run the business myself, there's no possible way that it could happen. They just don't have the physical bandwidth to do that. To ask what my why is, I would, you know, it's easy to say, and it's very true to say, like I 100% want to make sure that my family has a better lifestyle than what they had. Like my children don't go and they don't want for anything. And so that's obviously like I don't want that to say that as a cop out, but at the same time,
No,
it is
no.
very true that that's what I want.
It's a
But
father's love that make
yeah,
set your kids up for success. Yeah.
absolutely. I want them to have way better than I had. And they do as far as, you know, at their age when I was their age. So, but I also truly I don't want the trades to be seen as second rate anymore. And
Right.
I don't want people to think that just because I'm a tradesperson, that doesn't mean that I don't want them to think that that means that they can't have a fully automated business. Like that's not just a tech company thing. It's not just, you know, this other industry that can be, you know, given that ability to automate their entire business. I want everyone to understand that if they just put a little bit of time and effort into it, you can automate any task that you do more than once a day.
Nice. So good. So good. Like for example, just give us a few examples of the tasks that you're automating for folks.
Oh, I could go through hundreds of them actually. Every time you have a Google response, I can have ChatGPT create a reply to the response, whether it's good or bad. I actually had a 1-star review that we deserved and we got, and ChatGPT wrote such a good response that that person actually took down the review.
Wow.
We did have a conversation and communicated with that client, and we made things right with them, but the wording was so well worded that they're like it was one of those that I would not have been upset if they had left the 1-star up because the response was good, because you want to reply to each response is not just to that one person that wrote the
Right.
review, it's to every other person that's going to read them.
Exactly.
So they did a good job. ChatGPT did a great job responding to posts on social media, having conversations with people that way, uh, having emails automatically responded to. So every time an email comes to me, unless I have filters set in place. So if it's Julie, then it doesn't do this, or Josh, uh, but it'll automatically create a response and using Chat GPT, and then it'll put it in the draft folder. So I don't trust it to send the emails just yet, but it using an assistance API, it's learned me, so it's very much me involved.
Nice.
I'm in the process of building a bot that only takes the information that I give it to give out as a website chatbot, and that is any information that I've ever talked about on a podcast episode. So there's 700 hours of podcast is all stored inside this one bot. And so
Wow.
if you have any question at all about anything we've ever talked about, you just ask this chat bot, and then it gives you the information and then can give you a link to the actual recording itself. And that's all automated. Like I used to have to look up that stuff manually, and we actually we were in the process of building a repository inside of our website of just how to easily search this stuff. And then all of a sudden these assistance APIs came out through ChatGPT, and now it's like, oh, you don't have to do that anymore. We can just put a .txt files up here and it searches it all, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So it was like, it's just a heaven sent, honestly. What else? I mean, literally the Slack notifications. So 3 times a day sends out the check-in reminder at random times throughout the day.
Right.
Every time we get a 5-star review, it pulls the information from that and announces it in the Slack channel, giving kudos to whoever it was that got the review. Um,
Wow.
the Every morning at between 7 and 7:15, it announces the weather for the day and tells the technicians to, if it's going to be cold, bundle up, make sure you bring some extra clothes. If it's going to rain, bring an extra outfit. And so like it's a lot of times I forget the things that are automated until it breaks.
Really?
You get a notification that something broke.
Wow. That is so cool. And you are definitely helping business owners with this service. I mean, that's
And
well
most
also
all of these automations, we've recorded videos of them, and so they can search it on our YouTube channel and find the videos for that. I have it
that's so
set up
cool.
so that if you, depending on different tier levels of the dollar amount that you pay us on things, it'll automatically send you a gift. Different levels give you different gifts and notification. Our top level one is we send out Mary. She's a massage therapist, and it automatically notifies her. Then she reaches out to you and says, "Hey, which package would you like to have? I'll come over there. What day you want to meet me there, or whatever." So,
Wow. Seriously.
yeah,
Genius. You are such a genius. What's the name of the YouTube channel for that?
service business mastery.
Service Business Mastery, but they have to sign up to get access to everything.
If they want if they want to go through the courses that we built, then yeah, they can sign up for that.
Got
But
it.
we still have tons of videos on the website. I mean, I think I got a notification that we just crossed over 1,000 videos. So yeah, there's a lot of videos there on the YouTube channel.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about those that you serve in your life. Whenever I think of this, I think of like an onion, right?
Hmm.
You've got the core, the people, friends and family who are like your inner core, and then or whoever is in your inner core, right?
Hmm.
But then, you've got the different layers and then your bigger community. Tell me who you serve in your life, and clearly you're doing it through business, but what other things are you doing to be of service to people?
Uh, well, I'll tell you, I have a mastermind group that I run every Friday, and those guys that we've been doing it for, and I guess we're probably coming up on 6 years now. And that's a core group of guys, the business owners. It's crazy because the more successful you become, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with, and uh, it's one of those things that I have really good friends that I've been friends with my majority of my life, and but the ones that don't own a business, it's hard to have the same conversation with them that you have with someone who does own their own business,
Yes,
because the struggles aren't the same, and
correct.
there's nothing wrong with it at
No,
all.
not at
They're
all.
just, it's just a different conversation. And when you go to a barbecue and you're the only entrepreneur there, and you try and have a conversation with people, they're like, it's just different. And yeah, you can't necessarily connect on the same level.
Right.
So having that accountability group that we have, it really helps things out. We try and stay really consistent on doing Fridays, but then we'll skip a couple Fridays here and there. But when we do, we get back together and we're like, man, why did we skip that 2 weeks in a row? Because we just really needed this every time we get together. And then we'll do like a quarterly. Sometimes it's more like semi-annually get together and just hash things out really. And so I have that core group of guys, and then I have another core group of guys that it's less formal, but I feel like we actually get together more often than I do my main accountability group. But we don't necessarily meet on Fridays like I do with this other group of guys. And I thought about trying to do that for other people too, but I don't know if I can replicate the same group that I have. And if I couldn't bring the same value,
Mm,
it would be a failure to me. So I don't know if I want to try and mess with
mm,
that. So,
mm-hmm.
as far as that goes, like I have, my family, and, Julie and I work together through all of the businesses. So
Love that.
that's a very different dynamic. We actually did a podcast episode this past Wednesday where Josh and his wife were on it. Julie and I were on it. And then Josh Kelly and Laura Kelly from Clover out in Phoenix, Arizona, they were on it to get also. So there was three different couples on this show talking about spouses and working together and setting up limits and all this other stuff. And it's it's very common for spouses to be brought into the business whether they wanted to or not. Like,
Right.
hey, could you answer
Right.
the phone for me? Which turns
Right.
into, hey, can you do the books? Can you do this? And it's like, that's not my realm of expertise, but yes, I'll give it a shot, that type of thing. And so um it's pretty common for that to take place. And I don't know that that's best, but it happens. And so, Julie and Josh and Brittany, Josh's wife, they're like another layer of that onion. Not necessarily the same layer as my
I
accountability
get it.
group, but
I get it.
a
Yeah.
different layer.
You know, what's cool is I remembered when we were at the ACCA in Orlando, there was that awesome class called When Your Business Partner is Your Spouse. Were you guys in that same class with me? There you go. You got the book. Yes, the
Yeah.
Deeses.
Yep.
Kristen and Justin.
Yep.
Yes, that was such a fun class.
It
You know what I
was.
did? I have not bought the book for myself just yet, but I did buy it for one of my auto repair shop clients because I was like, oh, they need to see this book. You're
Yeah.
right. And my parents were also married, running the electrical contracting business together. And my husband works for me. He's in charge of our media division. Not all relationships can handle it. It has a
No.
certain yeah, it not every not every
You
couple
have
can
to
work
have
together.
boundaries, and it's very important. One of the boundaries that we've set in place because of some life coaches that we have, um, excuse me, they they challenged us to stop all business at the threshold. So at your bedroom's threshold, business has not crossed it. And that's something that we put in place several years ago. And it's funny because there are times where something will come in late at night or
Uh,
early in the morning, and it's easy to just start talking about business before you've ever left the bedroom.
uh-huh,
And we make it a point that we're like, let's not do that. Let's make sure we wait until we get into the office.
uh-huh. Right? Good for you. Oh man, I'm so proud of you. And how is that book? Is it awesome? I think it's awesome. I just
It
haven't
is good. It is good actually. I haven't read the whole book through and through, but it's every part of it that I read, it's like me, it's
Shazam,
yeah, it
right?
speaks right to me.
Right. There's another book that's pretty similar called Rocket Fuel. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, but I have not read it.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty much, and it doesn't always necessarily apply to married couples, but
mhm.
essentially there's the visionary and then there's the person that actually puts things into place. And
Yep,
so if you're in agreement and your boundaries are good and your communication is clear, that rocket fuel can launch you to success
it's
because
true.
the person with the vision and the person who's implementing it all and getting it all done, whew, it's magic. If it's not a good communication, not, like for example, if the visionary is like, I want to do this, and the implementer is like, no, that's
No,
not going
yeah.
to work, and poo-poos on it,
Uh-huh.
then that's rocket fuel that could explode things,
Yep,
right? So
that is true.
it's a really simple, easy read. I think you'd probably be done with it in a matter of hours.
Oh yeah.
But I have a feeling you would like that one.
I'll check it out for sure.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it. So I love what you're doing. You're just doing, you've got your different groups and they all feed you. And what's kind of cool is like you're building bigger community through your podcast. Your podcast
Sure.
is definitely how you're serving the world. And
Yeah,
are you finding that because HVAC is clearly international?
sure.
However, I would imagine certain countries have a more a bigger focus because HVAC is not necessarily an inexpensive industry, right?
Oh, sure.
There's a lot
Right.
of talk where you have to have some financing because
Hmm.
sometimes those units, especially if it's on a multifamily property, that's a
Oh
really
yeah.
expensive HVAC unit. It's still pretty expensive for a house,
Hmm.
but you know what I mean? So do you find that your crowd that listens to you, they are within Northern America, also South America and Europe, or are you also like finding that you have audience members in Australia and the Asian countries? And how big is your audience?
It's funny you ask. Not a ton in South America. We have majority is North America, Europe, and Australia.
Mhm.
A little bit in Middle Eastern, but that's about the extent of it.
Mhm. Wow, that's so cool.
And a lot of that has to do with it's not bilingual. Like we could put it out in multiple languages, but we have never done that in the past. And it's crazy because now there are programs that are really new, probably within the past month or so, that will literally take your video recording and change the way your lips look and sync to a different language. Yeah, any language you want. And it looks as if the you are Netflix needs to really pick up on this because I cannot stand watching a subtitled video on Netflix and then lip sync don't sync to the words.
Right.
The technology's there.
Wow.
Netflix, do it. It's not, and it's not even expensive. So
Wow.
like an hour and a half is like a couple bucks. And so uh the technologies is there. The AI is created just the opportunity for some wild things to happen.
I think AI is so cool. We definitely use it for our marketing. We don't do the automation quite like you do. But who knows, maybe in the future we will. But
Yeah.
you're right, like it's just amazing. In fact, I'm currently working on my newest book, which is Women's Social Progress over the last 200 years.
Oh
Totally,
yeah.
not, it's not the business books that I've written in the past. This is like a personal passion project. But I will say that, yeah, Tugin.ai is a software that I'm using, and it's taking a lot of these diaries and a lot of these firsthand accounts and then truncating it into like a shorter format. So is it scholarly? No, I'm not able to truly have the quoted text unless I hold that special and like show a thing. But it's
Yeah.
the way I'm taking a book that's currently it's like over 1,000 pages, and I'm shrinking
Yeah.
it down to something that's more readable because I've just
Mhm.
got so much data looking at diaries. It's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
I could only imagine. I can imagine the all the information that you can get now, the World Wide Web, all the information you can gather.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Absolutely. We are definitely in an amazing time in human human history
Yes.
because the amount of information that we can share. I love TikTok. Is TikTok perfect? No, but it's that one platform that the algorithm is truly serving up information based off of your interests, not necessarily the
Yes.
paid ads. And then I also love it how the conversations are so intimate. It's almost like, you've been invited to someone's house for dinner and now you're breaking bread.
Sure.
That's the level of conversations and intimacy, which I think
Mhm.
is brilliant. But of
Yeah.
course now it's being discussed being on the chopping block. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't agree with it.
I don't agree with it either. I
And I'm right there. I'm not famous on TikTok. I don't have a massive following on TikTok.
yeah,
What I do enjoy about TikTok is the fact that, like you said, I'm not sure I'm hit up with ads. It's getting more and more than what it
yes,
used to be, but
lots of ads.
it's not the way, like, it's not necessarily a pay to play yet, where it's like you have to pay in order to get in front of other people. It's a completely different thought process.
Yeah.
TikTok wants you to go viral, wants you to put more content out there. If you go viral, then you'll put more content out. Whereas all the other platforms, it's like if you want to go viral, you must pay. And then once you go viral, then you're not going to put as much content out there because you have to pay to get eyeballs in front of it.
Yep.
Whereas TikTok, you get and go viral, and then you're going to put more content out there and
Yeah.
more content out there, trying to go viral again. And so it's like I think that thought process is a lot better. You're going to get a lot more content
Agreed.
naturally.
Agreed. Oh my gosh, so true. Oh my gosh, we can have a whole other discussion just off of that alone. My goodness.
Right.
Well, so now you have done all these amazing things. You've automated, you've delegated, you're successful. You have these mentors, you have all these great people that you serve and educate. And what advice do you have for anybody who wants to be uh, a young entrepreneur, and they want to be the next Tersh Blissett. Like let's just face it, they want to reach that level of success. What advice do you want to share?
Um, Especially for younger individuals, male or female, it does not matter who you are. You are the five people you surround yourself with. At no point in your life is that not true. Uh, I wish I knew that information at a much younger age, and I also wish that I knew the world was bigger than what it was. For years and years and years, I thought that small town, that's where I live, was small town Georgia. I wasn't gonna, like, know a bunch of people that are outside of the city, and like you had to, like, almost become the big fish in a small pond. It's not true, not at all. Like, there's such a big world out there. Surround yourself with five people, and if you can't, if you're in a small town like I was, and you can't surround yourself with that next person, mentor yourself through them, even if they don't know they're your mentor, and the technology's there. It's too easy to have them as a mentor in a good way. Then it's just, there's no reason not to do that. And then lastly, I would say ask questions. Don't be afraid of being that person that, like, everybody snickers at because you've asked so many questions. Just keep asking questions until you fully understand it, or they teach you a different way of thinking about it. And that's like, don't accept status quo as the it's just what it is. No, you can't say it just broke because it broke. I want to know why it broke, and tell me how to fix it, how to diagnose it. Like, that's, just keep asking questions.
Such good golden nuggets right there.
That's why I do podcasting, because I'm not the most educated person in the world, but I will ask everybody a thousand questions until I fully understand what it is they're talking about. And our listening audience, by the time then the conversation is over, they're like, okay, I fully grasp it. I probably could have gone without a few extra questions that Tersh asked, but I got it.
Well, questions are clearly it shows that you're actively listening.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I love, this whole connecting with Jennifer Filzen was based off of when we do SEO interviews with our clients to do their marketing.
Mm,
Most marketing agencies will just hand over a form and say,
yep.
okay, fill out all this information about your business and we'll build your website from that. Well, I'm sorry that what you're going to get in that form is a
Yeah.
very generic story.
We're so busy as business owners for me to fill out another form. Like I'm so guilty of that myself. So like we're building out automations for people like, okay, what do you want automated? And here's your form to fill out the things you want automated. I'm too busy to do the things that I have to do. I don't have time to fill out your form that's going to be 20 questions.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
uh,
But
okay.
also too, like when you interview them and you get to know them, they'll say something and they'll be like, wait a minute, you just said something cool. Let's dig deeper into that. And
Yeah.
also too, I'm sure you have seen this in your years of doing the podcasting. Most people don't realize how big of a superhero they are, right?
Yeah.
They just think they're your average person and you're like, well, how did you do this? And like, it was no big deal. No, dude, it was a big deal. Like you moved
Absolutely.
heaven and earth to get that. And then look at what you did. And I don't know about you, but every single time I have that, because our interviews when we're doing the storytelling for their websites, they're 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours long.
Yeah.
We just fall in love with them, not in a
Hmm.
sexual way. I'm just talking
Sure. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sister and support, like, oh my
Oh,
God,
yeah.
you're such a gem. Like, oh, can't wait to tell your story. Isn't that fun that you
Oh,
get to
yeah.
do that?
Absolutely. And the absolute worst thing for me is you develop that rapport and that relationship over that short amount of time. If you don't stay connected after the fact, you're like, man, I just wish that I had stayed connected with that individual.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
it's so easy. It's so much easier to connect with each other when you have an in-depth conversation and you're not thinking about the next thing you're going to say,
Right.
and you're just actively listening to that individual. Uh, Even if you are don't have the same thought processes on things, there's still like you can still connect and bond
Oh,
over that time.
yeah. The world would be a better place, wouldn't it? If we
Oh,
all took the
absolutely.
time to understand each
Yes.
other better.
Yes. Not and think of every interaction as that's another person, not that's another car that cut me off. Maybe that person just had a blind spot and didn't see me. You
Yeah.
know, I'm guilty of that. I'm the world's worst with a road rage. And it's like, uh, treat that car as if it was a person. Would you talk negatively to a person if they cut you in line because they didn't see you?
Mm,
No. We're like, "Oh, go ahead. Sure." But treating that car as if it's a person is a completely different thought process. And that's with everything in life, I really.
yeah. Well, now that we've talked about cars, I'm just curious. Okay, tell us about your car project that you do the welding on. What are some of the favorite projects you and your kids have been playing with?
Oh, we have lots. We have 12 cars. I have a limo that's lifted on 53-inch mud tires.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that is epic. How did you come across that?
I just bought a limo
I love
and
it. Does that
started
carry the
putting
whole
lift
family? Is
kit
that
on it.
like the family traveler? What is that?
No, not yet. Actually, it's still a process and it's a work in progress. Uh, I have three different Mustangs. I have a Suburban that used to be Julie's that I took, and it's lifted and jacked up with mud tires, and now it's got built motor in it. A Tahoe that's the opposite, slammed on the ground. It's got a built motor in it. Um, my Ram, I have a Ram 2500 that's got a lot of horsepower and torque. And then she has a 600 horsepower Lincoln Aviator that is just, yeah. So we have 12 cars. So it's hard to keep track of them all the time.
Ah,
I have a gear shifter as my tattoo on my hand.
oh, yes.
Like
Yes. I
I'm ate up
love
with
it.
cars.
That is so cool. I have, you know what? I think you're the first person I've ever seen with it on the palm.
Yeah, the reason for that is because I had a Steeda Mustang and it had a billet shift knob, and every afternoon I'd get in the car and I'd be like, "Oh man, this thing's gonna burn that shift pattern into my hand eventually." And I got that not long after that. I got that tattooed on my palm of my hand, and I've had to have it redone about 10 times because it wears off.
No way.
Yeah.
Have you seen the bad tattoos where the person obviously didn't drive stick and they did the yeah, you've
Did
seen
them
those memes, right?
backwards
Like,
or
oh
yeah.
dude. I mean, obviously there's different patterns depending on what vehicle
Sure,
you're driving,
sure.
but I love driving stick. I
Mm.
love driving stick, except when I'm stuck in traffic and that's
Oh
a big
yeah.
leg day. That's when my left leg is like, bitch, what you
Yeah. Just trembling.
yeah,
I will
right.
tell you, Julie had a BMW that was a 6 speed, and it was a breeze to drive through traffic. It was almost like driving an automatic. They had put so much, thought into the experience, the driver experience when it came to that. Now my Mustang that used to be a 5 speed and now is an automatic, that thing, the clutch was so stiff on it, your knees were trembling
Oh,
driving through traffic.
no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good on that. I'm way too old to drive a car like that now.
Isn't it funny how what we think is exciting when we're younger and then we
Yeah.
get used to a higher level? Like I remembered my very first car was a 1981 red Camaro.
Mm.
And actually at the time I didn't realize how much of a piece of junk it was, but it was a Camaro.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it fit the dream car at the moment, 16-year-old girl,
Oh yeah.
sadly it was rewired by the owner who and my dad was so frustrated because like it was just such a piece of junk, but at the time I didn't know and it was so
Yeah.
bright and shiny and red,
Hmm.
but that thing was such a hunk of junk.
That's
and
too
uh
funny.
and then I didn't realize at the time how much of a hunk of junk it was, but driving it was like it was just that steering wheel, it was definitely not power steering.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And so I felt like I was driving a truck, but I didn't know it until I got my next car, which would be a Honda CRX. Remember those little cute
Oh yeah. Hmm.
two-seaters from like,
Hmm.
it was a, let's see, what was it? I think it was an 87. That
Yeah, I
was
was gonna
my,
say 89,
yeah,
87. It
that was
was
my college
a
car.
hatchback looking
Loved
thing.
that little thing. Oh my God. And it sipped gas, like gas
Yeah.
was outstanding.
Completely different than a Camaro.
And then I remembered because I went from the Camaro to getting the CRX, and I had to take my CRX in, and then I had to drive the Camaro because I was about to sell the Camaro, and then I realized how different
Yeah.
they
Oh
drove.
yeah.
And
Yep.
I was so young, I didn't have that experience yet, but it was like, oh
Hmm.
wow, like I drove this. This is
Hmm.
hard.
So one of my Mustangs is a Fox body coupe, and like a 92 or 93 Fox body coupe, and has no AC, no power brakes, no
No
power
AC in
steering.
Georgia, dude.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
Oh,
bearable this time
oh,
of year, but come
oh.
summertime, you're like you're baking that thing. And for years, you couldn't tell me that it was an uncomfortable ride. Now I have a Lincoln Aviator that's got almost 100 more horsepower than that does, and it's got air conditioning and the seats massage you.
Oh,
So I'm
oh,
like,
oh.
I'm not driving the Mustang unless like we have something specific for Mustang to go to. And I was like, no thanks. I've done turned old and bougie.
Do you ever enter your cars into shows?
I haven't in years. It's been years since I've done that. I probably should. I should take my boys and do it, but they just they're not that interested in the show aspect of it. They like tinkering with them more than anything. So
Uh,
I'll keep doing that with them.
well, I have a suggestion for your limo. Here in Monterey, if you want a beautiful excuse to come on out here to Monterey, California, we've got Monterey Car Week. And
Yeah.
that's when the Concours d'Elegance happens. I know
Oh
that
yeah.
Amelia Island, I mean, like you could go to the one in
Yeah.
Amelia Island. That's
It's right
perfect,
down the road from us.
right?
Yeah.
But we've got the Monterey version, Pebble Beach
Mm.
version.
Uh-huh.
But there are different car shows that go on during Monterey Car Week, and one of them is the Lemons. It's styled after Le Mans, but it's
Uh-huh.
lemons. And I kid you not, these cars are hilarious. There's
Oh
also,
yeah.
I mean, it's just it's the pimp looking,
Oh yeah. Just
uh
as wild as you can think of.
wild. It's the old van that has like leopard print everything inside
Yep.
of
With
it.
the little moon
Oh, you know it.
window
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
back.
for sure. But then it's also like, vintage, oh, what are those cute little French cars? little vintage Peugeots, you
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're like the tiny little,
Uh-huh.
they almost look like a little carriage, or like I remembered this one. I just couldn't believe it. Well, there are two that come to mind. One is a car that looks like it's upside down, but it
Uh-huh.
drives,
I've
but
seen some trucks like that.
it looks like it's upside down,
Uh-huh.
right? And then the other one is this horse car. It's like a station wagon, and they covered it in like stuffed animal fur with
Oh
like a
gosh.
horse head at the front of it.
Yep.
I mean, the craziness. And then somebody brought in their double-decker English bus. Like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
all kinds of crazy cars. And then the best part about the Lemons show,
Mhm.
it's at the end of the week, but like everyone loves it because they have this, different it's like a car contest. They have the different categories, and then they have the winners come through, and they hand you like a lemon peeler and like
Mm-mm.
all these silly little things. It's
Mm.
just hilarious. So, it could be
It
that
could be.
project.
Yeah. It might take me about 3 weeks to drive there because
I
that
know,
thing
right?
is not fast. So,
Well, and again, if you've got the Concours d'Elegance in Amelia Island, then
yeah.
you don't have to do all that. But it is really fascinating during Monterey Car Week. All the tractor trailers with all of the cars that are being brought in, especially the cars that are like worth millions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Those
just
things are wild. And you just walk past one and you're like, you don't realize how rare this one vehicle is. And so,
right.
yeah,
Right.
I
Yeah. It's
totally get
fun.
it.
Occasionally the Batmobile shows up. There's
Mm.
there's all kinds of cars that show up, but yeah. It's
My
and then
goal is to get the limo in SEMA one day, but
oh,
after I'm finished with it, and I'll probably need to put a
okay.
wrap on it. So we'll see.
All right. So Tersh, when you get that limo in SEMA, you just let
Uh-huh.
me know because I'm usually at SEMA. Not
Okay.
always, but
All
it's
right.
it's we've got various clients that go, so I'm
Okay.
usually
I
there.
will definitely I'll definitely hit you up then.
Just out of curiosity, are you going to
Hmm.
be doing any of them as an EV conversion? Because that seems to be something that
No, not
it's
yet.
trending.
It is trending. And I'm not opposed to it by any means. I just know combustion engines.
Right,
And
right.
so I don't know EVs.
Yeah,
I've never followed the EV trend, not because I was opposed to it, just because I have 1,000 horsepower motors in the garage. I'd hate
right.
to just throw them away,
Oh, exactly. You've got something golden right there.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not opposed to it by any means. If I just got a wild hair, I actually have a friend of mine who has this crazy program where he's buying up all the used batteries from EV cars and created a plant that stores energy. And so he's got me on this wild trip of looking at that stuff. And so like you never know where the future is going to take me, but uh it's probably not a bad idea. The torque that those things can produce is way better than what that limo does. So
It is phenomenal. So, one of our clients is Switch Vehicles, and they are an EV assembly kit that is meant for schools. So it's meant to be a
hmm.
STEM curriculum on wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen some families buy it. It's like a $50,000 kit, but
Yeah.
essentially the whole purpose of it is to teach you how to build an EV. And think about it. You go to your automotive technology classes at your
Yeah.
local community college or whatever. You need to have these skills when you're coming into technician status,
Oh, sure.
as a young person, right? But what's fun is that we went to the Sonoma Raceway, and it was strictly an EV day.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
was it was all the Teslas
It's
against the
crazy how quiet those
oh,
races are.
in fact, that was what okay, that's what I was going to tell you about because it was primarily Teslas against Mopars or, uh,
Okay.
different types of EVs. But I would say that Tesla was dominant, but it was really fun because they finally, they did the best of the best. And finally,
Mhm.
they had the best Tesla and the best Mopar. And they
Mhm.
calculated it out to where if everything was perfectly identical, that's where they were placed. And, they had their math, right? The Dodge Mopar, man, it beat it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it did. But what was so fascinating about being at that particular event, it was so quiet that we heard the squealing of the tires,
Sure.
and we smelled the acrid
Uh,
air
yeah.
from the tires being burnt. but like Ford had its Mustang on display. That was really cool.
They have a wild lightning truck that's EV, all electric truck that's supposed to be like crazy horsepower. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I'm so glad I can talk to you about HVAC and cars, because
yeah,
isn't that a blast? Cars
right.
are so much fun. Well, listen, brother, I'm thrilled that you spent the time with me. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. And
I'm
everybody, I
honored.
hope you enjoyed getting to know Tersh Blissett.
Hmm.
Tersh, if people want to get in touch with you, do us a favor, just remind us here, how do we get a hold of you? Where do we find you? Especially that podcast.
Google Tersh. That's it.
Okay.
Tersh. And if it's in North America, I am typically the top result.
I
Uh,
love it. You're
and
that
so,
easy to find. That's so
yeah, it's good and bad.
cool. Right?
Yeah.
If you wrote Tersh was here in the bathroom, they would know exactly who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no hiding it. And now in Latin America, Tersh is actually a pretty common name for ladies. Uh,
Ah,
and it's whatever. I battle a couple of them that are pretty famous on Instagram. So if you can't find Tersh, just type in my last name as well, and
Blissett,
that definitely,
Blisett.
yep, and that'll definitely come up.
That's amazing. All right, buddy. Thank you again. You've been so much fun. And everybody, I hope you enjoyed it. And please reach out to him, especially if you are in the Savannah area and you need
Absolutely.
HVAC assistance, or if you own a business and you want this automation. By the way, are you able to do the automations for any type of business?
Yeah, any small business that wants to become more efficient and do less work.
Dang, I might be calling you. All right, buddy. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Bye.
Thank you.